Hello everyone, nice to meet y'all. This time I'm showing myself off as Tom and Jerry and not Sword because I kind of want to do something new right now. And plus I think it might be a bit funny to do this. Perfect! Now, let's begin the video since I'm going to make a pretty bold claim with what I'm saying. So yeah, Maliketh is the boss I don't feel the best towards, and I make a big claim with saying we should fix him, so let's begin. Alright, let's start with the moves, starting with Death Roar, Jumping Slash, Death Beam, or the Sword Beam, right? Death Jump. Now, we have Sword Swipe on the ground into Overhead Slam. This horizontal swipe into another Overhead Slam. Adding Death to Death, the grounded version this time. Then, we go into the same Sword Swipe, but with Death Crash. Death Jump into Air Destined Death. Super Sword Slam into this horizontal slash. Yes, I love that name. Sword Slam. Now we also have Death Fissure, right? Then we have Death Barrage, ending with the spectacular Death Blow. A fast attack. Death Barrage again, but this time ending with Death Fissure. Pretty cool combination moves. And Death Blow. That is all his moves. Now let's move on. Well, okay, I forgot about this. Honorary mention, when you parry him, he does these two slashes. Now, that's enough about his moves. Let's talk about his openings. Chapter 1, openings. Alright, so let's start off. Jumping Slash, you can fully charge it. Punish it with a fully charged R2. Death Jump, fully charged R2 again. That's a punish window. This Overhead Slam is another punish window. Destined Death Air version is also another punish window. This Sword Slam is also another another opening to where you can just run under him. Death Crash is also another one. Destined Death is pretty hard since you can not only land one hit, but you can also, his body can block you, like what happened to me. Now we're gonna review every move to see what's good and bad about him, so let's get started. First attack I want to talk about is the slice on the ground to the overhead slam. Now the slice on the ground, you can just run behind it, and that hurts this boss because there's no behind hitbox, and he sometimes does this when you approach him. So you have instances like this to where you can just run through it and punish him for no reason. And you can also heal while attacking him still. Now the Destined Death that can catch you doing this to punish you more is threatening, right? But with the new roll buff, you can just roll away from it, right? Sorry for the audio cut. I just had a good record. I didn't want to waste it. But yeah, like I just showed, you could just roll away from it. But if you have heavy armor and don't have a good roll, then you can just dodge it the normal way, right? But you don't even have to dodge it, really. The Overhead Slam is so forgiving that you can just run behind him. You'll still do the Destined Death trying to find you, but you can just run away. And you can also get a hit going off of it, right? If you have light armor. And the Overhead Slam is too forgiving, right? To where I land 2 Ultra Greatsword hits and had enough time to run away or roll away, right? And it's so forgiving that I can just run up to him, right, and heal. And he does a Destined Death, which makes me survive it. And some of the follow-ups he does that aren't Destined Death don't mesh well together. Like right there, when he did Death Blow, since I just stood there during the Overhead Slam, I had enough time to react, I wasn't worried. Or this one, to where I could just run up inside of him. Yo. Yeah, but he has some good follow-ups, like Death Fissure, to where it caught me off guard. But when you can run in between his sword swing like that, it messes up some of the combo strings. The only reason why I didn't hit him is because, well, I didn't want to hit him. But yeah, let's go on to another attack. Death Barrage. Some good things about this attack, right, is the slight delays in between the sword beams that can mess up someone's roll timing, or the final death hit right at the end. Or the second variant to where he can add the Death Fissure, right, to where you have to slightly delay your roll at the final melee attack with the Death Explosion. Or you can just jump away from it and roll the explosion, right? Now here comes the problems with this attack, right? Like this, I don't know if it was a glitch or not, or pillars blocking the whole attack sequence itself, right? Which annoys it, right? It just sucks. Now I know we joke on FromSoft for like, oh, bosses hitting us through walls, but I'll make an exception for this. So yeah, another problem that they should change, right, is that you can run in between the sword beams, right, and just invalidate the whole attack sequence, and even make an opening out of this variant to where he just comes down with this speedy death hit or Death Fissure, right, to where you can just run one direction, right, and just dodge the whole attack sequence. Now, it's not the easiest thing to do, right? I can mess up my movement sometimes with this, right? even in this next clip, right, to where I changed direction at the last second, right, even though I could have kept running that same direction. And also, let's talk about the parrying claw for him, to where you could just get by running left. Now, I'm not no tutorial guide, and also, I don't think you have to do the whole quest line of Volcano Manor. Now, let's talk about the parry timing, right? Is when you put your arm up and not to swipe back. Yes, I know FromSoft's crazy for that. And this just creates a bigger opening window for you to hurt him. Now, I'm not the best at parrying him, and I don't usually get the parrying item. Even I messed up there, but that depends on you, right? It just gives the attack more weaknesses that it didn't need, especially the running. Let's just talk about the single sword beams. That one isn't noteworthy since it's just one, you can just outrun it. But the retaliation move is pretty good since you're forced to roll it, and especially a delayed roll too. And it can apply the Destined Death effect. Now let's move on to another attack. The Super Sword Slam attack, right? I don't like this attack too much, right? One main problem I have with it is that he does it when you approach him, right? Which is dumb. Especially for how slow it is, since you can chug down 2 Estus before the sword even slams down. And hell, you can even just casually walk under it or run under it. Now you can punish it with the normal R1, right? Because he at least has good recovery out of it, but you can just use a running R1. Another thing I don't like about it is the way you have to stand far away from him in order to get a dangerous combo string like this, right? And even then, the combo string wasn't even too dangerous. It was just a Destined Death at the end, which has immense range. Now let's talk about his follow-up move after that. This sword swipe, right? It's fine. You can jump it, right? But it's hard to jump, and it also gives him good coverage. It pulls back his body enough to where you can miss the jumping attack, right? You have to angle yourself a bit weird to jump and actually hit him right. And you can also just run under him, right? And just kind of hug him. So it's weird. Sword Slam, I don't have much to say about the attack, except it's bad really. To where it has an alright hitbox to where it can catch you sometimes. But then there are times to where you can just run to the right, or in slow-mo, walk to the right to avoid the attack in general. And it just gets worse because it doesn't give him enough distance to where you could just run under him. Like for example, you could just run under him right here and just use a casual R1, or hell, even a running R1. Now let's stop talking about that Sword Slam and talk about his follow-up after that move, to where, yeah, its hitbox is not good. Hell, the skid marks are even on me. I don't know how it didn't hit me. But it's an alright move. For its recovery frames, it's really fast, right? And it can lead into some dangerous combos. Hell, that also goes for the Sword Slam. And also, it's also jumpable, to where I'm showing it right now. And another thing I want to show off about it is that it's hard to do, but you can run to the left to avoid the attack without even jumping, right? And hell, he has good recovery frames, so I couldn't even punish him there. And it's hard to do because you have to angle yourself properly. And you can even get hit while jumping, right? So yeah, it's an alright move. Death Jump is a move that I started to figure I had more and more problems with. Now let's get into one of the problems, to where the last clip was a lie. It does not combo into itself. Now you see the hit stun right here of Death Jump just ended, and that's bad because now I can just mash roll and roll away from the explosion. Which the explosion, like I said, doesn't even combo with the stab down, and also the explosion itself isn't even that big. Alright, let's talk about Air Destined Death after you run away from Death Jump, right? It's really good. It catches you from far away. You can't even run left or right to avoid it. But one problem I have with it is the sword hitbox, to where it's really small and thin. I'm practically running at it, yet it misses me. Now let's talk about Air Destined Death, right? It's good for catching you while you run away, but the gap between it is so big to where you could just run back to him and manage to get behind him, finding the safe zone in that attack. Even I slightly delayed my run there, and I still managed to get behind him. And let's not also forget that this is a big punish window. Hell, even I showed y'all that sorry for the auto cut, but you can fully charge an R2, which is a big opening. And also, let's talk about how you can run under Death Jump, which makes it hard to punish the landing, but even then you have to be patient, look where he's landing, right? And also, let's talk about how this messes up his combo strings to where it leaves a big enough gap to where I just run under him, and I just position myself to where I know he would land. Death Crash, I don't have much to say about it. It's just a good attack, right? First, I want to talk about speed, right? To where it's so fast, it can combo off some moves, right? Like there, when I tried to spam circle, I couldn't move because I was still stuck in hit stun. Now you can roll it with the things you have, right? And you can also punish him after it because I slightly delayed my attack there. But it has good combo strings to where right here, I mess up my spacing with that attack, right? Then I get punished because I couldn't roll due to the previously established speed and hit stun. Now you can run away from it, right? And you can just like run under him at the last delayed attack, but it still has good properties to where it's a dangerous move. Death Fissure is a good attack, let's not cut it. Now you can parry it, right? But that still doesn't take away its good hitbox, right? To where it's deceptive, to where when he stabs down on the ground, there's actually these pile of rocks that actually hit you. It's not just a sword. Then this is also adding in the death explosion, which also can throw off your roll timing, right? Which caught me off guard right there. I recommend just jumping away from the sword and just rolling the death explosion, or if he jumps on a pillar, just run under him. Death Blow, the spinning slash, is actually pretty good. You have to roll it twice, and if you're lucky enough, you can roll behind him and hit him actually to get a punish off. And you also have to be careful while rolling it because the second hit could hit you with this slight delay. And also, you can't just run it. You already have to be running and not just start a run like that. And it does a lot of damage while adding the death and death effect. Pretty good actually. This sword swipe, I don't have much to say about it. Like, it existed to me. I say it's a bad move because its hitbox is horrible and you can just punish it 2 times. Since he always does an overhead sword slam after this, which just makes the punish window bigger. Now it's jumpable, but it also has a perk of being really long. I don't know what to say about this attack, and let's just put the roar here because it's like, I don't know what to say about the roar except it has good recovery frames. It's a good get off you tool, and he can pressure you with it. And I guess he can use it as a victory screech. That's all, really. Now, what is my main problem with Maliketh after talking about all of his moves, nearly all of his moves for this long? Well, his attacks require a lack of dodging. And this is bad because the way to dodge most of these attacks is just by running into him, like the clips I'm about to show you. Even some retaliation moves like the sword slam right there, you could just run into it and you can just punish it. Hell, even Death Blow, you could do the same thing to it. And you could just like run most of his moves. And hell, let's go back to the arena. The arena can block some of his moves too, making his attack strings easier. Now I want to talk about Beast Clergyman now, since, you know, they're the same person and the same boss, right? Technically. But yeah, let's get started. I want to talk about this poke attack and the advantages it has over this one specific attack, right? And this will open up a bigger flaw for Maliketh that I'll get into. And so yes, the attack we're talking about is this jumping slash, right? Let's begin. The poke, you can run right to avoid it, and you can do this for jumping slash, right? Then, with the poke, you can also run left to avoid it, but similar to this, jumping slash, you can run left to avoid it. Now, here's where we get into the main problem. Now let's point out the advantages of the poke, to where the poke is a good heal catch, right? Then it also leads into some attacks that benefit Beast Clergyman more, like Beast Shield Sling, which can catch your back row, and it can adjust his body to where your sword swings can miss him, right? Then the poke can also lead into this attack, right? This multi-hit attack, and this is a problem for Maliketh since he doesn't really have it, or doesn't really do it as a follow-up. Now he can have multi-hit attacks. Death Blow isn't a good one since it adjusts his whole body, and it's a delayed attack, right? And this isn't a delayed attack in general, or because you could just run inside of him. Hell, even Margit has a multi-hit attack to put you at bay. Now he does have one, it's just that he doesn't do it as a follow-up if you're close to him. You have to run away from the slash on the ground. Now this is a problem with Maliketh, and this is a problem because Death Crash helps him with his main problem. You just running into his attacks like this and just avoiding them with no cost whatsoever. Jumping slash is good for this because not only his body pushes you back into a sword, you're also forced to run under it, but he never does this attack again because this is a set boss pattern. Now a good example of set bosses would be Void from Kirby Star Allies, to where after the cutter attack he's going to do 3 attacks only in his final phase of attacks, right? The main one I want to focus on is this mirror attack from Kirby Amazing Mirror. The first attack sequence is him going right, the second one is him going down, and the third one is him going left, right? Now the main reason why I brought this up is because just to show that even though it's diverging attack patterns, it's still the same move, and he does it. First of all, don't just make jumping slash at one time use in the fight, right? It's a good attack because of its jumping height. Because unlike Death Jump, right, to where I'm going to show right now, Death Jump goes too high in the air. Unlike Death Jumping Slash, to where his body can block you like I just shown. You have to run under him properly like this to actually punish him right. Now let's talk about the running slash, right? First thing I want to change, make its hitbox lower so you can't just run under the sword. And another thing I want to talk about, don't just make it to where he always has the overhead sword slam sequence when he always doesn't even do the destined death after it. Like for example, he just did it now. Make it to where he mix in different moves like this for example, to where he did the swipe in the overhead sword slam. Probably not a good combination, but that's just for example. And if you don't want to change it like that, make it to where he always does destined death then to add pressure. The single sword beam off a pillar. How I would buff this, don't make it runnable. Just don't. And also, this also helps out more because you can just run under it. And also, make it to where he shoots multiple of them now. Since one singular one doesn't add much pressure and it's not so threatening. Like this edit for example, make it to where he just shoot multiple. Now for the sword swipe on the ground into the overhead. Phew, I've been waiting for this one. Make it to where the swipe on the ground actually has a behind hitbox beyond it so you just can't run into him. Like this for example, right? And also, let's talk about the overhead slam now. So, make it to where he actually has a hitbox, because his hand and hilt is on the ground. Make it to where the dust cloud is also a part of the hitbox. And also, make it to where he always does destined death after a certain threshold, because he doesn't do it sometimes. Now let's talk about death jump, right? Don't make him jump so high when he does this attack, right? Make it like jumping slash to where his body can block you. And also, this will help with combo stringing, right? Like for instance, it just creates a big gap and I had time to punish him. And also, let's talk about the death explosion. Make the death explosion bigger. Like, I say about right around here, but I don't know how to really buff it. And also, make it to where the sword after the air destined death is bigger. Make it like Death Crash to where it has multiple hitboxes on it. And also, make it to where air destined death activates a bit faster since you can run a bit far and still punish it. Super Sword Slam, I don't really know what to say about the attack. It's still a bad attack to me that I don't like. But I don't know what else to buff about it, so I say just make the attack faster, really. That's all I really need. Sword Slam, right? Its major weakness is that a retaliation move. It's a bad retaliation move because you can easily get a double punish off of it when he does it. First of all, let's fix the hitbox, right? Let's extend the hitbox. Let's make the dust cloud a hitbox with this also, right? And also, the major buff I want to change to it is make it to where you just can't run under it. This is the major problem of this move, and this is the major thing I will change about it. Now let's talk about minor buffs I'll give moves. First of all, make it to where you can't just run into death blow like that. Second of all, make it to where, I don't know how to do it, just make it to where his whole attack sequence with Death Barrage doesn't get stuck on the pillar. And another thing, don't make it to where you can run in between Death Barrage. Minor buff for Death Crash, but make it to where, like the sword slash on the ground, he does it when you approach him. And for the roar, just make it to where it could do damage to you, because it's an alright move. Now the moves that need no buff. First of all, Death Fissure. It's just a good attack all around. I thought this swipe move would need a buff, but no, it's pretty fine. This swipe move on the ground is pretty good too. Death and Death, yeah, it speaks for itself. Pretty good move. And this sword beam is alright. Let's talk about the Death and Death gimmick now. It's a good gimmick, not only cutting off your maximum HP, but also draining your health really fast, depending on how many things you get hit by. It's a good pressure tool too, because right here I thought I was going to die to the Death and Death gimmick, but then I got killed. But I feel like it's a bit over punishing sometimes for how fast it can drain your health, and it not only outpace your Crimson Tears, but that's all I have to say about it really. Sorry for this video being so long with so much talking. It's not bad really, but I just really wanted to talk about in depth, right, on what my problems were with this boss, because I feel like I needed to talk a lot, because he usually ranks high on boss tier list, usually being number 2 or at least 3. So yeah, that's all I really have to say really. I came to this point and like nothing else to talk about, right? If I'm missing anything, comment down below, and nothing else to say really other than I think he's easy.